And welcome back for another episode of KARE-ing Conversations. I am your host, Rachel Hill, Creative Director here at Senior Living Foresight, and as always, joined by my amazing superhero co-host, Jordan Evans of KARE, who works to really give a voice to our frontline staff. So, Jordan, how are you?
I'm great. I'm just like every week it feels like there's a month between them, and then I'm like, oh wow, there's like oh crap, it's 2:00. So yeah, I'm really excited actually about today's episode. We put out a survey about 2 weeks ago, and we asked our heroes to put together a list of questions that they might have for a CEO of a senior living community. Now there's like a fly buzzing around my head. Great. So we brought together 2 senior living leaders, and we're going to put those questions to them and see what happens.
Yes, and we would love to hear from you guys too. So if you are watching live and want to drop some comments in, whether it's for our special guest, who I'm going to let Jordan introduce here in just a second, or for us, you just want to say hello, we will say hi back. We want to hear from you. The whole point of this is to have a live conversation with you all. And this one, Jordan, I'm really excited because this is something I feel like I personally have talked a lot about offline, like maybe there is some kind of communication gap. And maybe that's part of the reason that there's this issue with retention and turnover. And maybe we could start kind of getting to the root of that, and what everyone's facing, we can start to sort of close that gap. So with that, I will let you.
This was a taste of like what we talked about last week when we were talking about going undercover boss, but this is like undercover boss light. Definitely an idea for the episode in the future. I would love to see that.
Yes.
So yeah, today we have Jodi Guffee, who is the COO and founder and owner of Radiant Senior Living, and Deke Cateau, who is the CEO of A.G. Rhodes.
Hello. How are you both?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
being here. I am wonderful. Thank you for having me as well.
Absolutely. So I am so excited to meet you both. I know Jordan is familiar with, both of you and the work that you're doing. So Jodi, I'd love to start with you and just have you tell our audience a little bit about your background and sort of how you got into the industry, please.
Oh, goodness. You really want to go back that far?
Cliff notes. It's okay.
Well, interestingly enough, that is one of the first questions is what gave you the idea to get into senior living? So let's just start with that.
Cool.
Yeah, I was 3 years old, and I would, after daycare, I would go to my dad's skilled nursing building, and that's where I spent my afternoons with the residents, and it just became second nature to me. Then as I grew up and went to college, I said, I don't want to have anything to do with that. Then, come full circle, and I get an internship as I'm graduating, and it's working with seniors, and there I was, recognizing that this is my passion and these are my people. And so then my dad grew his business for several years and then wanted to retire. And so my husband and I took over the business. We kind of rebranded it and made it new and grew it into 16 communities. And we're in 6 different states now.
Wow, very cool. I really resonate with that. So I was telling you, off air that my mom, was a nurse in a nursing home for 20 plus years. And I would actually go after school and visit her and hear these incredible stories from the residents. And that was amazing. So I love hearing that.
Yeah, we've really lost that historical glance at how important those stories are. We just don't tell them anymore. And I'm trying to get kids in high schools to come in and volunteer and have that be part of their curriculum in the schools so that they get re-engaged with this very important part of history. And then also check the box. It can be part of something required in school. So
I love that. We're always looking to sort of close that generational gap and share those stories. Also, hi, Jesse. We see you. Deke, I want to turn it over to you so you can answer the question, please. How did you get into senior living?
Hey, so my story's a lot different. I mean, was also exposed to great elder influences, including, I would say, most importantly, my grandmother, who died at 101 years old. But really had nothing to do with me getting into this business. My wife, I guess, like most good things in life, I would say my wife was the person who got me involved in this business. And this is about 22 or 23 years ago. I fancied a career in the financial services industry, unhappily so. And my wife would always tell me, "Hey, you have she thought I had something that would work in this industry." She was a registered dietitian in a nursing home, not far from where we lived. And one afternoon, she invited me to her job, and I was hanging out with some of her coworkers. And I left that nursing home, Autumn Breeze Healthcare, with a job offer that day in their business office. I did accept that position and never turned back. She was absolutely correct. Working with elders has been the most gratifying thing I could have ever done in my life. It has given me joy. It has given me passion. And it really made me appreciate life, appreciate what the elders, my mom, my dad, my grandparents did for me. And I don't see myself doing anything else.
That's amazing. That's one thing I noticed, that everyone in senior living, in this profession, in this industry, you have to have heart and you have to have passion, particularly with a lot of the obstacles you can face, and you have to care. So I love hearing that. And Jordan, I will turn it over to you, as this is a secret for me. I don't know these questions, so I'm very excited.
Drum roll. Next question is, wait, pull it up. How many facilities do you own?
Jodi? Go.
Oh, well, yeah, I kind of started that.
Yeah.
We, let's see, we grew from, over the years, we've kind of repositioned our portfolio. We've purchased some, we've built some, we've divested of some. So all in at any given time, we've been at 16 and growing. So we're kind of in our sweet spot around 14, 15, 16. And we primarily run assisted living and memory care and an independent living component of that, typically cottages or something surrounding.
And I'll jump in. So I don't own any nursing homes. Firstly, these days that's not necessarily a good thing, right? But I do proudly operate A.G. Rhodes as their CEO. A.G. Rhodes is one of the oldest long-term care organizations in the state of Georgia. We've been around for 117 years. We have 3 locations. Our flagship location, which I was proud to directly run myself for 7 years, is still located same spot in Atlanta, Georgia. And then we've expanded to 2 more locations, both in the metro Atlanta area. So our current bed inventory is at 418 units, and we typically see about 1,100 to 1,500 seniors each year.
Wow. So let me say, I have, for all of our audience, I have prepared no one for these questions, which is lovely because I want honest answers. But also, I have not edited any of these questions. So personally, I hate the word facility. I don't think of them as facilities because they are an assortment of people's homes. And so that is when you have a bunch of homes together, that's called a community. So I prefer the word community. So that's just my disclaimer there. I am not editing these questions. These are straight from our heroes. So next question. Do you love your work as much as I do? So imagine this is coming from a caregiver. Do you love your work as much as they do? It's hard to gauge how much they love their job, but I'd imagine just from the day in and day out things that our care force deals with on a daily basis, and then, as we'll discuss more, don't get really enough to do it. I'd assume that they love their job a lot.
Yeah,
that's a very heartwarming question for me because I started in the communities, and yes, the F word is not allowed. Anybody who uses the F word has to put $1 in the bucket. So that's the rule. No F word.
I love it.
I worked my way up in every single position in the community. So, I worked in dietary, I worked in just volunteering in activities. I was a caregiver. I got trained to be a CNA. I was an administrator. I did maintenance when it needed to be done. So I've been in the trenches. I know what it feels like on a day-to-day basis. Do I love my work as much as you do? I just love that that's a question, that you actually do love your work. First of all, let's just put it right there. My dad always told me, you're going to climb this ladder and you're going to be one day, at this executive type level, and you're going to miss being in the community every day. And I thought, oh, sure. Well, I guarantee you today, the best part of my job is when I can be in the communities with you, with your residents, and being alongside you, because the appreciation that we have for what you do on a day-to-day basis is very genuine and very real, and it's not easy. You have the hardest jobs. So I commend you all for just having that question in the first place. I adore my job, but you're doing the harder work.
I love that.
So I'll start off commenting on the F word too. I actually disagree. There are many facilities in our system, and not every community facility is a community. I'll just start by saying that you earn that right by building a certain culture within your organization. Do you love your work as much as I do? I have such a passion for this industry and for the elders. But I will say, over the last 2.5 years, that passion has really come to a brink for me. In my organization, I can't talk for any others, but we've seen about 350 cases of COVID. We've had about close to 30 deaths, resident deaths. We've had a staff die, a close friend of mine who passed away with COVID. And it seems like the tipping point just has gotten so difficult to deal with in this business. So as much as I love it, my hearts go out to all of you who have stayed in this industry, throughout all this, throughout COVID, throughout risk of your lives, really. We call our frontline employees, our care partners, now we're calling them essential workers, when they've always been essential in my view. And I just take my hats off to you guys, because I know I've had my moments where I have reconsidered and say, why am I still doing this? So I could imagine how that is for a direct caregiver, to have lived through the last 3 years. So hats off to every one of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I also want to add another, and Jodi, correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, but A.G. Rhodes and Radiant Senior Living one is for profit and one's nonprofit, correct?
We're for profit.
Right. So what I love about having the two of you is that we get to see that it's not, because too often someone on the other side sees the other side is not actually doing right by residents and caregivers. So that is another great thing that we have here, is that we have the two of you both showing that it doesn't matter who your shareholders are or if you have shareholders or not, the work can be done. So bringing up the next question. Do you believe the residents are truly happy?
Oof. Who wants to take that one?
These aren't easy.
I'll jump in.
Please.
We do our best to have our residents enjoy life to the fullest every single day. I mean, we have some, and I don't call it programming if we go back to language, but we have some life experiences that our residents live through every single day. I do understand that coming to a nursing home, in my case, is a very, very difficult decision that's most times is not made by choice, right? But I look at the smiles on the faces of my residents. I was just in one of our CARB location today. And that's one of the things that energizes me when I see that, hey, they are happy and they are enjoying themselves. When I hear from families, about how mom enjoyed this or mom enjoyed that or dad enjoyed this or dad enjoyed that. So I like to think I have a happy bunch of residents most of the time.
I love it. And what about you, Jodi?
Well, again, I appreciate the question, because that means that you brought this question up because it matters to you if the residents are happy. Mm-hmm. So again, I commend that these questions are being asked. With residents, I could say that just about anybody. Do you believe everybody in your neighborhood is happy? Do you believe everybody in our country is happy, truly happy? I think it's really about an individual, right? You can decide if you want to be a happy person or not. There are, I always say, listen, you can please them all some of the time, but you can't please them all the time. So don't even go there. It's like trying to be a perfectionist. It's just not, it's there's no value in it, and you'll just drive yourself crazy thinking it's possible. However, is it important that we work very hard to make sure our residents are truly happy? Of course it is. And so the engagement part, the listening to their stories, the making time for them, and in our care type settings, we tend to focus so much on providing the basic needs to those people because that's why they're there. And we forget about the social aspect and the human element of that person and their story. When we can engage in those kinds of conversations and they know that we truly care, then we've got a different kind of engagement and happiness, if you will. It's not just providing the basic human need, but it's engaging the human soul. And we really focus on that as a company in a variety of strategic ways.
Yeah, Jodi, that's interesting that, like, not that you're saying that hearing these stories is going above and beyond. To me, though, that's part of the need too. Like, that is essential to be happy and fulfilled, to have that connection. So yeah, of course there's medical needs, but no, that emotional need is way at the top. So I appreciate that.
There is a lot of loss, and you're right that, I mean, to have someone come to you with a great amount of loss and expect them to just jump for joy with the first, as you put it, Deke, life experience that you provide, that isn't tailor-made to them all the time, and that is based on the popularity of what is popular for a majority of the residents. It is hard to make someone happy. But Jodi, I do appreciate that. Like, it's the thing that you strive for, and it's a goal that is unobtainable, but to keep striving for it is the work that we do.
Additionally, I would just add that when we ask about if our residents are truly happy, the flip side of that is, our care team or our staff, our care heroes, whatever we're going to call them, are they truly happy? Because if we're making them happy, if we're going out of our way to make them happy, then that translates to our residents also being happy. We talk about the care plan for a resident. We are very, very meticulous in how we create a care plan for a team member, because what we know about them and how we engage with them and how personal they are to us, then will directly translate to the love that they provide to the resident. So it matters. It matters that the employee is just as happy as the resident.
I'll tag on to that, and I love what you said, Jodi. I actually say it a bit more controversially, because this industry, and again, I started in this industry 20 plus years ago, and the mantra has always been, it's a customer service mantra, has always been, the resident is always right. Right? While I don't disagree with that, I think by preaching that mantra, what we have created is a situation where the staff is almost always wrong. The care partner is almost always wrong. And that's the problem with our industry now, that hierarchical system that we have created. I subscribe to the Eden Alternative. All of my homes are on the Alternative Registry. I serve on the Eden Alternative board. And the Eden Alternative has their golden rule is, do unto the staff as you would have the staff do unto your residents. So I like that formula that Jodi said. It's actually a winning formula as an operator. You treat your staff good, and they're going to then take care of the rest for you.
So a majority of our staff and this may not be the cute question, but I'm going to put this as the question. A majority of our staff in long-term care and senior living are CNAs, as far as our clinical staff.
Yeah.
They outnumber any other clinical staff that we have.
Yeah.
Have you ever been a CNA? And if you would you do it for a day? Or would you do it for a day? Now, you said, Jodi, you have been a CNA. So, Jodi, tell us about your experiences being a CNA.
Yeah. Yes, I have. And it is a very difficult job, depending on your leadership, right? So I actually got to the point where I was training CNAs, but I'll never forget the first day that I went in with a group of us that were training, and our lead nurse took us into a room, and there was a gentleman, and he was not an elderly gentleman. He had been in an accident, and he was in a full trapeze and had no bowel or bladder control. And we were going to be trained on how to do peri-care. And it was a very intimidating situation, very sensitive situation. This is not an old person at all. And we walked in with probably the look of horror on our faces that we were going to, in order to be able to become certified nursing assistants, we were going to have to do this on a regular basis. The day that changed for me was with that man. And he said to me and to the rest of us, if you can imagine that this is more humiliating to me than it is to you, maybe you'll get through this. And thank you for helping me. Life changer. So that's what I tell everybody who's going through that, whether you're a CNA or a caregiver, it doesn't matter whether there's a certification or not. We're doing the same things in a skilled nursing environment as we are in assisted living and memory care environment. So just recognizing that the other side of that is the human that you're taking care of.
Oh, you're making me emotional over here. Personal note, he is not a human, but he is one of he's my dog, and he just had ACL surgery, and I have just been going through it this week. He just got home, and helping him and doing physical therapy with him and medicine 3 times a day, and just he needs me, and these residents, they need you, and that's really, really powerful, Jodi. Wow, thank you for sharing.
Deke, would you do it for a day?
So let me start by saying I am not a CNA. Have never been a CNA, and it's probably a good thing that I'm not a CNA. I will say I've had 2 sort of, one is more than a day, and one sort of 4-day experience. One was during what we call snowpocalypse in Atlanta, which is the snow, the drizzle of snow we had a few years back. And had to spend several nights in the nursing home, and had to give direct care to really get down gritty and help CNAs. And I learned so much from that experience over those couple nights, about dignity, about respect, about a lot of what Jodi said. But my other experience was directly as a caregiver. My father, he's deceased now, but he was diagnosed with cancer while visiting me here in Atlanta. And he could not do much for himself. So I had to help him bathe, which was a very embarrassing thing for him and for me, right, as well. And I knew then, I was working as a nursing home administrator, but I knew then that experience that a CNA and their care and their resident has, that intimate experience that Jodi just described, is really something that is so personal, that is so deep, that I don't think we have even begun to fathom the mental, synergies, or sometimes the opposite that's involved with that. Because that was hard for me as a watching my father, a grown man, right, and helping him change, and having to turn my face at times and stuff like that. So hats off again to what you guys do. It is a work of God that a lot of our CNAs do, and I would be fortunate to do it for a day. I would be blessed to do it for a day.
Yeah.
It's the dignity. It
Yes.
is changing someone, bathing someone, and not having them lose their dignity is an art.
Yeah.
And that is something that is hard to do. And so this kind of leads into my next question. Do you believe CNAs get paid a fair wage?
I'll jump in. The answer is absolutely not. It is an answer that I, as a CEO, have had to face directly in the last 3 years. Had to make difficult decisions around. My case is a bit different in the nursing home side because we are, what we are paid by Medicare and Medicaid. We're paid 90% of my residents are paid by Medicare and Medicaid. We have no control over that rate, right? So we're often stuck with difficult decisions in being able to, how are we going to meet that obligation? How are we going to pay it? One of the most difficult decisions I had to make financially was post-COVID, after all the bonuses and the COVID bonuses. We could not look at particularly our CNAs and take that bonus that we've been giving them for the last year and take that away. And we were faced with significantly having to increase CNA and LPN wage. What made it difficult is we had to look at our housekeeping staff who are as important. And I could not afford to raise their pay that year. I'm real proud to say we worked hard at it, and this past July, last month, we were able to raise our housekeeping wages commensurate. But that was a very, very difficult decision. That was hard. So absolutely not. CNAs are not paid enough. I think that goes back to the same hierarchical system that we've created, where we've put them on the bottom pay scale and how we treat them. But it's a complicated issue to fix because it's an issue that involves much more than just what a good heart, is involved with.
So, quick curveball, Deke. Steve Moran wants to know.
I want Jodi to answer this question. Then,
what is a fair wage? Though, keep that in mind. Yes.
I want to ask Steve's question definitely.
Oh, Steve, you can just stop right now. That's not even fair. So I don't know that we can talk about what a fair wage is because across the country, that's just kind of different for the cost of living and where you're at. But a lot of us are talking these days about what we call the gig economy, and that we've never seen this amount of inflation happening at the same time that the unemployment rate is shrinking. So we've got people, therefore, that need more than one job. And kind of why I engaged with CARE, to be honest, is we recognized that there isn't enough money. I mean, I can't make money trees, and I cannot create a market environment where it's not affordable to live in our setting. So it all works together. Do I feel like they get a fair wage? They're paid enough? I could say never. They have the most difficult job that anybody does. So never, ever am I going to say that they're paid enough. They deserve the sun, moon, and stars for what they do. But when you run a business, you have a responsibility, a fiscal responsibility to make sure that business continues to be able to produce care and an environment for people who need us. So if you flip that upside down on its head, then you no longer get to provide those services because you're out of business. So yeah, it was a really challenging time during COVID and paying different kinds of bonuses and trying to keep our heads above water and knowing how hard they work and wanting to pay them more. I want to just pay them right out of my own pocketbook and say, here, just take it. What do you need? We started to get to the point of, is it groceries you need? Is it diapers you need? Is it whatever it might be? We can get those kinds of things. Can we increase everybody's wages across the board by $3, $4, $5? No, but what are your needs? How can we meet those? So it will never be answered.
I want to throw this out there as an answer to Steve's question because that answer is not subjective. I don't believe that answer is subjective because on average in this country, an average CNA makes about $33,148 a year. The average household spends on average in this country spends $61,334. They make $30,000 on average than the average household spends. And this was just from the CDC. I'm working on a side project that happened to have these things, and I was like, this is perfect but like us paying them a wage that just can afford. I mean, it's talk about benefits that you provide your residents, and this is not in any way directed at the two of you, but directed at our industry, because we talk about, well, we offer them benefits, we offer them healthcare. Healthcare on average is $12,000 a year. Who can afford to pay for healthcare, even the healthcare that you provide, with also having to live? And so there is, that is sobering. That
I'll add to it. I think we almost need to rebase to before COVID, because I think the scary thing is that why we are having that conversation now is because of COVID, because of inflation. But this is a conversation that we should have been having way, before COVID. So I agree, it's hard to keep up. It's impossible to keep up with the inflationary measures now. I get it. But I just think if it's a conversation that we had before, each state does have a living wage index, which is, the amount similar to what you just pointed out, Jordan, that it costs people to live, and to be able to take care of their family. And sad to say, CNAs in most states always were underneath that living wage index.
I remember working as a recruiter during COVID for a senior living community. And I remember calling CNAs asking, like, hey, are you open to work? Where, we'll take you PRN, per diem if you want. And they said, why would I go work for you? I can make more at McDonald's, or I can work more as a server somewhere else. And it's not just CNAs, it's also our servers, because you want to talk about feeding someone with dignity, bringing someone a plate of something they did not order in some cases. Of course, you have nicer communities where you can order from a menu, but still, you don't have the option of having your own kitchen where you can go cook again, and you lose that. And serving someone with dignity, but yet servers in senior living communities get paid the same they would at Applebee's, minus tips. Yeah, and so the
big difference, though, the big difference to Jodi's point, though, is Applebee's could charge more for their meal in order to cover that, and in most of senior living, we don't have that capability. So that's the big difference, right? So Applebee's, you pay more now for Applebee's than you did 7 months ago, right? My room and board is the same amount as it was before.
Well, I do quickly want to weigh on this, and I do want to get to a few more questions here before we come up. I feel like this alone, woo, guys, right? Oh my gosh, getting heated in here. But I want to just quickly add on to that, Jordan, your comment about what you say, 33,000 or 30,000?
33,000.
Okay, my mom made more than that as a nurse 2 decades ago now. Like, I have to say that. So that to me, then again, I'm very much obviously coming as an outsider. So please don't troll me in the LinkedIn comments. Let's not turn this into Facebook. But that's it's an opinion, right? And we all know what opinions are like, but I just feel like that's unreasonable. So yeah.
I really love these questions.
What's the next one?
Is not if I could have wrote a question, I would have written in this question, but I didn't. I promise you, all my life, I did not ask this question, but I'm very happy this question's in there, because this has been a hot topic thing that I've been talking to a lot of people about.
Yeah.
And something that we are very passionate about and talking about and having this conversation at CARE. What do you think is the right staffing ratio?
This is the simplest question you've asked so far. Thank you. Finally. The staffing ratio should be based on the needs of the residents. So, you calculate whatever the needs are of that individual, if it's points or levels, and how much time it takes to provide the services that that individual needs, the level of sophistication it might be, whether it's a nursing task or whether it's a caregiver task, and you just create that formulary. I have this level of acuity of residents in my building at this time that equates to this amount of people that need to be providing those services.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it's going to differ per environment, per need of the resident. I take care of a much more acute needed resident. So, for my sweet spot as an organization, we look between 4.1 and 4.3, and we staff high because we're again as a nonprofit provider. What I do not like with traditional staffing ratios is, and again, this depends on the environment, but I think in most models that I see, the level of skilled nursing, the LPN, the RN, right, is a lot higher in what's expected. My experience in running nursing homes, this is taking my CEO hat off. I ran nursing homes for many, many years. Is give me more CNAs any day, because the nursing home environment, right, it's a home-like environment. It's that community environment that you spoke about. So I think I see a lot of these models flipping, going towards looking at rehab, numbers of therapists that you should have. Again, numbers of RNs, no disrespect to RNs or LPNs at all. They serve a very, very critical function in our homes. But I think that direct caregiver, that intimacy that we spoke about earlier, is if I had to redesign the system, I would heavy it up that side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I troll sometimes. I don't troll. I browse or explore the CNA Facebook pages.
Yeah.
And if you ever get a chance to sit by, and I talked about this last week, if you ever get a chance to just sit down and grab a glass of wine, or I usually grab a bottle and just just read through the comments. You hear about staffing ratios that would make you cringe. I mean, there are stories of people walking into a community with 30-to-1 ratio.
So where's this disconnect? Why is this happening then? Phil, somebody clue me in then, because I'm lost.
The problem is that there once was a day when a CNA was a career, and now CNA is a stepping stone. And that is the trend that is very frightening to a lot of us operators. Is once there was a time that we were so proud to be a CNA, but now it's I get to my CNA so that I can then become a CMA, so that I can then get back into nursing school, so then I can get to $45 an hour. That's the kind of things where I talked about in the beginning. We're going back into the schools and we're talking to the kids in their career days, and we're explaining to them about opportunities for growth and what it means to provide care and what it means to give back. Because quite honestly, we've been raising a very selfish society for quite some time now. So where are we going to find those compassionate people that probably aren't going to make a fair wage, but their compassion for what they can do in helping others matters more? But to everybody's point, we don't do skilled nursing anymore.
Yeah.
It was probably the best day of my life, and we divested of our last one because it is almost impossible. Mm-hmm. And CNAs are just a rare breed anymore.
So I want to. Oh, go ahead, Deke.
No, I was just saying, agree with you, Jodi. And I think that's where we failed, in particular in our environments. It does go back to that wage issue. Why now it's a stepping stone? Because I'm not going to stay working for $33,000. That's a life choice there, right? I'm going to have to step up. But I think we've created environments where, and that's why they're leaving, where staff cannot see themselves coming in as a CNA and one day becoming CEO or one day becoming COO. And when we get to that point where we have those true development ladders for staff, I think that solves that problem there. Because if I were coming in to a nursing home environment or to a lot of our senior living environments, as a younger Black male, I don't see myself becoming CEO as a CNA. And we need to make our environments seem or feel or people know that, hey, this is what's possible.
So
Okay.
I'm very
We're all
happy.
just like,
I'm so happy you said that, because this isn't the case in either of you, but as someone who went to school to study aging services and like went in as a student, the one thing that used to like frustrate the heck out of me is when people would say, oh, I just fell into this. Oh, I just fell into this. I just fell into this. And you know, so many, you know, off the top of your head, you see them, like so many executives and people who are just like, oh, I just fell into this. And you think you think your staff doesn't see that you had this experience in working in some other industry and then just fell into this, and now you're a CEO running multiple communities or facilities, and where are they? Where is their career path? And where's so I mean, you're right but we have this like two almost industries where you're a senior living executive and that is your industry, and you're going on nice extravagant trips, or you are a caregiver at a community and your highest thing is you could probably be a administrator, but the work that it takes to get there is. And where are you supposed to go to school for $30,000 a year? On $30,000 a year, like where are you going? What degree path do you have?
I have to disagree. Because our company, we have longevity of people that have been with us 20 and 30 years. And our top executive director right now, let's see, 3 of our top executive directors and 2 of our regional directors. One started as a grounds maintenance person. It's the top performing NOI operator in our entire company at this point today. One of our regional directors started as an assistant activities director. One of our top performing executive directors started as a caregiver assistant. So it depends on the company that you're with and the opportunities that they want to present to you. And when they encourage that opportunity, when you know that from the get-go that you had those opportunities versus working for a company where you don't hear that, you don't see it happen, then that's where you're at. So it
Jodi,
depends on your choices.
I'm so happy that is the culture that you have in your organization. I am totally talking about the industry standard. I'm totally talking about where the majority and the average is. And I'm so happy to hear that you are not the average and that you are creating opportunities and stepping stones. And if, like last week and the week before, the thing that I keep saying is, if we really want to change our workforce, if we really want to like bring more CNAs in, we can't keep creating solutions as individual organizations. We all have to come together and really put the pressure on these associations to make us all come together and say, we need to find an industry-wide solution. We cannot depend on CMS to always make us change, or any other state organization to make us change. We have to change ourselves, because we're all adults here and no one's here. The government's not always going to change our diaper. So
I gotta bring us in. I gotta bring us in because we are coming up on time.
Unintended.
So I gotta first of all, Deke and Jodi, when are you coming back for part 2? That's my question. Clearly, this is going to be like a part 2. So I want to get confirmation on air that you two will be back.
Of course, anytime.
I'm happy to be back. Happy to be back.
The whole point of making change is that we do these kinds of things. And I used to tell my team, I'd be invited to be on panels at different industry associations, and I'd say yes every so often. Then that started to become a more regular ask. And I said, the last thing I want to be is a panel whore. I don't want to do it. But then I realized, listen, if we are the people that are going to make the change and we're going to get out there and start having dialogue together, then okay, I'm in.
Have to. Yeah, you have to.
You guys are just bringing up so many interesting points. And Jordan, I want to let you get that in. I have one last question though after your point, Jordan. please.
Well, I'm just going to actually repeat something that Deke said at that video that I watched on. If we're going to preach to the choir, and that's what we're doing. Like all of us know that there's a problem. All of us are here. Anyone who's watching this is saying, "Yeah, there's a problem." That's why I'm watching KARE-ing Conversations. Like I want to see what our other industry leaders are saying. If you're going to preach to the choir, don't preach to the choir. Bring the choir to the table and let's actually make a game plan. Because if you keep preaching to the choir, then we're all just gonna, and I mean, I see it all the time. I see these nice like retreats and these nice like conferences that are way, way nice. And they are us all having a good time. And we're all talking about what we're going to change and how these are the problems. But yet very few solutions come out of these things that are industry wide. And very few things are actually very few of us are making a plan for all of us to come together and actually build a future. So stop preaching to the choir. Hold the choir accountable and tell them that if they aren't walking what they're singing, then step down off of the choir.
Absolutely.
I love it. So my last question, I saw this pop up. One of our audience members asked if either one of you guys, if you provide, I guess, training or tactics or help for caregiver stress. And that is something so important to me, the mental health of our frontline staff. So I don't know if you guys want to quickly address that or if you know of any great, communities that are doing that, because that's so important.
Yeah, we actually this came out of COVID as well, that this whole mental health issue. So we literally armed ourselves and paid a significant amount of money for healthcare mental health care provider resources for our staff above and beyond. The part that's sad to tell you is very few people have used it. I think as a community, we need to be a lot more open in sharing our vulnerabilities. I share with my staff all the time. I was seeing a counselor during the first year of COVID, so I try to openly share that in order to get people to open up and realize, hey, these are resources that we have there for you. 500 staff, we've probably had less than a handful of folks reach out and use these resources, because it's a difficult thing to get that vulnerable and to get to that point. But it's a work in progress. Again, I think it's by us sharing stories, experiences, and what we've been through, and we'll get there.
100%, because there's a stigma, right?
Yeah.
And what about you, Jodi? I'll let you chime in real quick.
Yeah. We've always had an employee assistance program, an EAP, which includes anything from financial assistance to legal advice to free counseling, whatever it might be, abuse counseling, all that. It's completely included. They don't even have to participate in our insurance program. It's just something that we offer. Again, to Deke's point, same thing. It's just rare that they use it very often. We bring it up on a regular basis. And so what we recently started doing is there's so much when you onboard somebody that here's your employee handbook and sign this and here's that. And there's just so much that it gets lost in the shuffle. So what we started doing is saying, here's what these are available to you. And then a week in, we'll introduce it to them again. And then 30 days in, we introduce it again. And then 60 days in, we introduce it again. So they keep remembering that there's these perks and things available to them, that it doesn't just, slip into their entrance paperwork and sit there. And it's an online portal. They can go on it anytime they want. It's completely anonymous. They can get help. And we've just had to push it a lot more lately, obviously.
Interesting. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you both for sharing that, because I think the mental health and well-being of our frontline staff is pivotal to them giving the best care possible. And the last thing I'll say too is, we talk so much about wage, but I'm wondering if they felt better there's not so much focus on the money too, or this upward climb. I mean, sure, there's nothing wrong with aspiring to do more, but maybe if you felt good in what you're doing, you're not gonna look elsewhere. You're gonna have those blinders on and be super focused in what you're doing.
They need to know they matter and that they're making a difference, because they do. And I think some people get a little bit frustrated with what they might call a millennial work ethic. But, I was talking to a friend of mine, Kara, and I said, so at one point do we say, well, so it is what it is. You're not going to change them. So why don't you meet them at their need? If they need to be told that they are awesome every single day, every couple hours, then that's what you're going to need to do, rather than complain that they have a hangnail and can't come to work. Do you want people there or not? Meet them at their need and recognize them however they need to be recognized. Create their own care plan for that person. This person that might not need the same things this person needs. This person might need to be verbally recognized in front of everybody. That might terrify somebody else. How do you know your people so that you make sure that they know they matter?
All of these ideas, like we are talking about person-centered care to our employees, creating a person-centered culture, talking about benefits and how do we meet them where they are for their benefits. All of these things, actually, wonderfully enough, are episodes that we're talking about, things that are coming down the pipeline. We will get into these things. We will be talking about these things because you're right. These are things that we need to talk about. And it's actually really awesome to have you two here as people who are doing some things right and being able to share that with other people so they can say, I never thought about doing things like that. Or I never even thought about, it's a millennial work ethic. It's the work ethic that they got. So let's meet them where they are.
I mean, as an elder millennial, I love my participation trophy. Okay.
I will say, as a Gen Zer, I have a very different work ethic, and so
y'all ain't gonna get me to tell my age, so forget it.
Good. Oh my God, Deke, Jodi, thank you for being in the hot seat. Thank you for your hearts. Thank you for your passion and compassion for what you do. I'm going to sign us off. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. Jordan and I will be here every Wednesday. Thank you. And thank you to our frontline staff for what you do. And we will catch you on the next one. Goodbye.